Hi, I'm Susan Kennard and welcome to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. This is a podcast where I get to interview and talk to and have amazing conversations with such cool people. And these people are some people that I've met along my journey, and sometimes they're people that the universe just drops in. But this lady that I'm talking to today was kind of a bit of both. We met on Steve Olsher's training, which is about podcasts, how you can actually profit from podcasts. And we met on that training and we connected that way. But later on, she reached out to me and we did a little bit of work together and became great friends. We've seen each other twice now at the New Media Summit in San Diego. And it's a shame we won't be seeing each other this year in September in San Diego. However, we're seeing each other now. And you'll be seeing this podcast either on your podcast platform or on my YouTube channel, Susan Kennard, or across all social media. So I'm really excited to have my next guest. Her name is Carol Joyce. Hi, Carol. Welcome to the Spiritual Awakener.
Hello, Susan, and hello to every listener. I'm so glad to be here with you. It's just always a joy to be with you in your presence and your energy and what you bring to the world. And I was very excited to meet you and continue to be. So
ditto. So, Carol, do you know if there was one or two things? I mean, I'm sure we have many spiritual awakening and turning points in our life. Mm-hmm. What do you feel was a pivotal moment or a few pivotal moments that you feel has led you to be so much more than who you are?
Okay, well, I would say, first of all, I'll tell your listeners, I spent 10 years in a cloistered community when I was young. And I entered there after high school. I was like 17. And for me, it was a great experience in a place, in a way of safety and being with learning all spiritual.
What were you there? I know some people might not know what a cloister was. So just to explain, what was your role there?
It was a community that for the first 4 years was one that you lived in pretty much silence and prayer and study and ritual and as a community. And then the later part of those years I worked, it was the extreme opposite. You had both the spirituality and I worked with the poor in East Harlem. When it was, now it's very socially up. When I was there many years ago, it was a poverty ghetto, much like with all the riots that are going on now. That's what I was dealing with. In fact, I helped mediate some of that back then with the young lords in East Harlem who were taking over churches. So I'm familiar with that. But having had that deep spiritual experience and guidance on that dimension, although I was very young. And I have to say that one of the reasons my entering, I had, a sexual abuse incident, which I had no memory of because I was drugged when I was 11. But I knew that I was very unsafe and thought I was going to hell and all these things that came somewhat out of Catholicism and out of my fears. But that experience turned that around and I felt safe and contained. So it was a perfect container for me at that time. The reason I went in is because I did have a spiritual experience. This is one of the early ones because when I thought I was young and that I was going to hell and they were, for what I didn't know, I just had these bodily experiences, but I didn't know. Jesus came to me in dreams, and all of my life has been dreams. Very Celtic, and so I pretty much live my life by my dreams. I write them all down, I draw them, and it's a pathway for some people. Dreams and visions is a pathway for some people to live out the life that they're meant to do, and that's part of my work. But I was running from him. I didn't know it was him. I just thought somebody was running. And then he grabbed me and he turned me around and I was just flood of love. And he said, I've held you always. And that was a moment of profound change for me. And it enabled me to feel, well, if he loved me, I could do this. But I still went where it was safe. And then I left, and I decided I had to find out who I was, other than just being the nun in the community, although I did really well and I was blossoming there. All my sexual desires began to come up. There's the parts of me that have been unlived.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got to find out who I am. One way or the other, I'm going to find out who I am. And I thought, okay, I'll go into therapy. I'll go into analysis. I'm going to figure this out and live the best life that I can. And so I proceeded to do that, and married a really, really interesting guy and had a powerful life with him. He's big in communications. During that time, I explored all sort of religions. I went to different experiences, and I'm going to find out, do it through the human channel, just keep going and finding who I was. And then when I was in my 50s, I guess, this is one of the big moments also, I started having dreams. I was doing analysis at this time, Jungian analysis. I have a Jungian background. And so for those of you who want to know, I have a PhD and an RN, a Jungian, all those credentials that go with developing oneself.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes, yeah. I wanted to do that. I wanted that route. I wanted to be scientific.
Yeah.
Much like you, Susan, you know.
Yeah. We like the evidence, don't we, Carol?
Yes, I wanted the evidence to know that I was on firm ground, because inside I felt still somewhat shaky because I hadn't done enough trauma work. Yeah, really, that was the thing. But I got a lot of energy, people, and I continue to. I just think this is a curriculum of life that we're learning, and you get to shape it, and you get more and more choices about it. And you can live with it. And if you're in the divine design, it goes very easily.
It does, yeah, it gets shown to you. Can I take you back to the nun experience?
Yes,
I think the listeners might be, I mean, I'm definitely interested in it. And whenever I speak to Carol, I have to say, you know, we always have a great time, whether it's physical and we're meeting each other live in San Diego, or whether we're online like this. And I just want to say I'm really interested in it, because what an interesting experience to have, where, you know, we have retreats, don't we, that we can go on, which are called silent retreats. I haven't been on one yet, but I think once my children get older, I think I might do that at some point. But what is that like? Literally, I've seen it in films and so on, but where you walk around and you're literally in your thoughts.
Well, you're in your thoughts, but the thing about convent life is also there's ritual and a scaffolding that starts your day. But I'll give you, and one of my most favorite memories actually of being in the convent is getting up very early, like at 5 o'clock, and then walking through this long cloister under the stars.
I can see it in my mind. I can see it clairvoyantly. They're showing it me. Wow.
Everyone's silent, and walking to this chapel that is candlelit, and then start singing in Gregorian chant. It's mystical. It was one of the most favorite parts of my experience there, and the silence was so profound that you moved into that dimension and you lived there. You began to breathe with it. So, at least for me, that's what happened. There's a lot of oddities and things like that too, because people sometimes are, you know, they're not talking, and we're human beings. But you do get to talk at certain times, you know, like not at dinner, but they have a talk afterwards, like a time, an hour, 45 minutes. But the rest of the time, you're quiet. But I have a very quiet, introverted part of me that loves deep meditation and reading and knowing the mystics. I feel like they're all friends, and they teach me so many things. And I was always interested in the woman mystics, because I wanted to know. I've always had this search about being in a woman's body, and what is it in this time, and what does the feminine mean in this time, and what's the best expression of her, what's the natural expression of her, and how can she be valued, how can she be visible,
Yeah, wow.
How can she speak her word from who she is at this time?
And it's also the men as well, the men that are living their divine feminine as well.
Yes,
It
yes,
is definitely a time of balancing that masculine and feminine, isn't it?
yes,
And really embracing both sides. And for those listening, really it's about understanding that you are both,
yes,
and that even though you might have a female body this time, or a male body,
yes,
actually you are walking the divine feminine and the divine masculine.
yes.
And so it's
Yes.
important to be in
In
balance with that.
balance, yes.
Mm.
Well, I know the balance is important, but here's my also viewpoint. Because the feminine body has been so abused at times for
Violated.
centuries and really not recognized, it's important for all of the women out there to be able to be in their cellular self,
Yeah.
untraumatized, to feel the love, the respect, the absolute delight of that experience. That will also help men to be able to move into theirs without denigrating it. And so it's very important to me to be able to mirror that aspect and sing about that aspect, write about that aspect, be that for people, because you feel at home with it. You bring it more into balance, and then they're delighted when you're that, and then they can allow themselves to have that.
Yeah.
They can. I saw with my husband. he just started to flourish. She became the cook. I stepped out of the kitchen. He took over and he loved it. He was very happy experiencing that side of himself. So, yeah.
So do you think the combination of being a nun,
Yes.
being a nun, but also really working on yourself and healing those parts of you you mentioned about abuse, etc. Do you feel that led you to understand that you were here for a really important reason?
Oh, yes. And I'm going to share one other thing because I think it's sort of important. That became more and more clear as I did my own inner work, and the dreams were showing me I had all these different talents, and I would think, oh, it's that. Oh, I'm supposed to sing. Okay, I'm supposed to be on Broadway. And I would try all those things. It was wonderful. It was really exciting. But ultimately, it came down to this divine feminine energy wanting to be honored, seen, spoken about, experienced, because we're on such a we've been anyway, up until the last 2 months, on such a rapid pace that feminine tempo, that feminine rhythm was not available on a large scale. It got overridden. But I also had this experience, and because I watched my dreams, I was having these dreams, and this figure kept coming to me and telepathically talking to me, and I was agreeing to all this. I went into the analysis and said, I'm having this dream of, so we did a lot of work on this, and I thought it was the communication with the feminine. Then I was at a conference on psychotherapy and spirituality, and a magazine fell on the floor, and the woman was there in the magazine. And and I said, wait a minute. It ended up being Mother Mirror, this avatar. And so I decided
Mother Mary works with me, as you know.
Yes. So she was
blessed.
Invited me into helping with light, and I have done that for a number of years. And and then Mother Mary herself, when my husband passed away 7 years ago, and that was really difficult because we were together almost 30 years. And I felt like I became almost a little too identified with in our life of, we just worked so well together and lived so well together in a lot of ways. And it was hard for me to let go. So she helped me with that. She helped me. She took over, actually. That's what she showed me, is your job is done. Let me handle this transition.
And when she works with me, she comes in and helps through song, through sound, the suffering child. So I suppose in a way she's working with you, healing that suffering part, right?
Yes. She literally, she just, and it was so, I mean, I kept missing the signals. You know, sometimes if you don't notice, if you're not in tune, you'll miss them. But in particular, it was Our Lady of Lourdes. He wanted to be buried across, he was not big religious, but he wanted to be buried across. He said, I hate that garish shrine. He was going on about it. And he said, but he wanted to be buried across the street from it. I said, that's interesting. There's a little Catholic cemetery. And anyway, he ended up being in a hospital above a shrine of Our Lady of Lourdes in this chapel, that was an actual shrine. Then one day I'm doing gardening and a woman comes here, and I was telling her, she asked how I was doing after Dick died. And I said, well, it's been, you know, really difficult, but I think Our Lady of Lourdes is helping. And I told her just what I told you about the story about he didn't like that shrine. She said, oh, Carol, you don't know, do you? And I said, what? She said, you know, that shrine was built from rocks and slate from your property. Years ago, a priest in the 1800s asked the parish, he wanted to build, because this area is very much like the area where Lourdes is. And he asked people for rocks and that. And the man who owned the property before us, and it was a Shaker, gave them the stone that built that shrine.
Wow, my goodness.
So I just, there are so many confirmations.
And those synchronicities, aren't they, that happen in people's lives, you know, where it's really important, isn't it, to look out for those synchronicities, and, you know, maybe being guided to listen to you today and have this conversation. You know, actually, maybe you just needed to hear this. You needed to hear that there are signs and that you are looked after and that you are always supported in this life.
That to me is actually, that's the thing that I find the most thrilling in life, and also even with the work that I do, is that all those little signs, the affect that you have, the dreams that you have, the geography, whatever it is, the landscape that you are situated in, is speaking and telling you who you are and how you are.
Yeah.
And if we listen to it, the roadmap becomes clearer and clearer, and like, this is who you are and what you're doing. And so it gives you that sense of being held in something very wonderful, and that you're not so much confusion. And right now there's a lot of confusion, you know?
Yeah, and just to touch on that, you know, that when we look on our outside world, and you know that I talk about this a lot, but when we look at our outside world, it will bring up parts of us, won't it, that actually we have that little bit of fear. We are human, right? We're still having a human experience, of course, but you know, we're having a human being experience. But those human being parts of us will perhaps be triggered. And I just want people to know this, that it's okay, that it's okay, don't shut it down. You know, it's okay to feel that fear, that emotion, that pain. It's all right to do that. It's just that, you know, then that there's a bit of you that needs to heal.
Right.
Yeah, so that the perception is different.
That I do a lot of work on, because I think, you know, this world has been very traumatized in a lot of ways, is helping people to identify the feeling, to really have lots of names for them, whatever they are, to be able to know what you feel. And then that feeling is exacerbated. Are your needs met? Are they satisfied, or are they not? So you can begin to distinguish, okay, what is it? And then get out of that total anxiety or confusion into, okay, I feel apprehensive, and what need isn't being satisfied? What is it that you need? Very simply. And sometimes, and that just with the breath enables you to be present to it. Be present to it.
Should we do? I'm just feeling guided to do this with everybody. You know, should we just do a little? Should we just all just come into our heart, and maybe Carol, you can take everyone through sort of like a minute or something. Would you like to do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think people could do with that, actually.
All right. Okay. All right. So if everybody would just drop in, Let the love surround your heart. And breathe in deep. And breathe out as though through a straw. Breathe in again. And breathe out. And one more time. And as we sit in love, I'm going to ask for divine guidance on what is the need for today? What is it that I need in this moment? What is it that I need? And don't think too much, just let it come to you and then just let it drop. Listen to the bird. Feel your heart. Let go of all anxiety. Let yourself rest. Rest in that this need is being met. It's being met right now in this moment. As you breathe. As you breathe.
Wow.
Feel your feet on the ground and know that all is well. All is well and all shall be well.
Beautiful. And actually the birds are really tweeting now, and I normally in sessions will have them in this room, but for podcasts I don't have them in the room because it really is quite loud. So but I can hear them and they are really tweeting now.
Yes.
As we've connected with that, and so
yes.
You could hear them, couldn't you? And
yeah.
they're in another room.
I could hear them, and they are singing very loud right now. All the birds up here, and they're talking like going and freeing, and they have the songs. They can hold it for you.
They are, and I feel my birds, my buddies, Cookie and Georgie, very much hold the space for people to heal. And often people say that when the light language comes in, they're holding it as well. But what I wanted to say to people listening was that what we actually just did then was, we went into the parasympathetic nervous system, and what we really need at this time, don't we, more than ever, is to come away from the fight and flight, which is the sympathetic, to the parasympathetic, which is where we're in our peace and our calm. And whether you want to look at it scientifically or whether you want to look at it spiritually, either way, we know that by doing exercises like that, little 2-minute, 1-minute exercises, we're able to come away from the thoughts that are really outside of us. Those thoughts are really just, sometimes they're not even ours. They might be the news, they might be somebody else's. We're very beautiful beings that pick up other people's energies and emotions. And so even going to the supermarket, we might pick up somebody else's fear, even if we're not in fear. So to think of it that way, and maybe do it as a daily basis. Carol's beautiful connecting meditation there that was just 1.5 minutes maybe, and that's really all we need every day, isn't it? Just to really come in and maybe just set an intention. I loved what you said. You said, what do I need today? And I think that's one of the things that people don't do very often, is think about what they need. They give to everybody else in the thinking that everybody else needs them to give, when really quite often we need to meet our own needs.
And sometimes they're very simple. That's the thing. If it can be very simple. It may be that you're hungry, or you need a snack or a glass of water. It's like, what is the need in that moment?
And sometimes as a child, if we're looking at inner child work, we don't voice that, or when we do voice it, we don't get our needs met. So it might be that that's something where if you are meeting your own needs,
Mm-hmm.
and you're starting to get into the habit of healing that child that didn't
Yes.
get their needs met.
Yes.
It's just kind of what I felt guided to say. So Carol, what kind of people come and work with you? So if somebody's listening to this and they, of course, they're going to resonate with your energy, but if they resonate with your energy,
yeah,
what you know, can you help people understand what they might?
Yes. Well, I think people, if you're out there, you will be guided to me. That's what I found over time, that people somehow or other get guided to me, because I really don't market that much, although that's a part of what's needed. But the young women that I'm working with right now, and things change over time, and also in your own journey as you change, people around you, you'll be attracting more and more the people that need to be with you and that you need to be with.
Exactly.
But the people that I have right now are a lot of, I have women and men, primarily women. It's 3 to 1. But the women that come to me are young creative women who are either in the arts or film and entertainment, and sometimes have conflict. They're either financially successful and can't have a relationship. Their skills around relating have been, all channeled into being financially solvent. Mm-hmm. And they have great loneliness, and they want to be able to get that in balance. Yeah. And on the other hand, I have people that are very talented but haven't been able to have their instrumental side, their male energy, go after
realized
and be able to support themselves well. Mm-hmm. And so those people come to me, both sides. And I'm good at resources. I've been in New York for, 35 years, or at least I was. Now I'm probably going to be up here. But I know all the arts in New York City, and connected in that way. And I enjoy that. So that's who is coming to me now. Wow. Also, other professors, a lot of professors come to me from women's studies because I have an understanding of the feminine and also in them, and how to get that combination to work for them. Yeah. So those are the kinds of people. And
wow, it's really interesting.
That they're like in their late 30s to 50s, around there.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So if people are feeling drawn to perhaps talk to you, work with you, how can they find you?
Okay, I'm on the. I have a website, www.caroljoyce.net. You can opt into there and tell me that you want to call, or you can call me directly. I make my phone available. That's 917-882-6164. I may not be able to get back to you immediately, but you will hear back from me. That's,
yeah. And at the moment, because obviously we can't see people in person, are you able to see people as we're talking now? You're able to talk to them on the phone or see them on Zoom?
Yes, I'm doing all my work virtually right now. So, and everybody's continuing, which is, it's surprising to me, but yes, and it's working quite well. It's not, ordinarily I would do it in person. So that's what I'm used to. And also I do a lot of, working, songwriting or whatever I feel needs to come up, I will do it with you in session.
Wow. So, there's lots of different energies there that you throw in. And it's like, actually, if you feel, I think what I'm going to say to people is, if you feel resonance with Carol's energy, watch the divine work for you. That's what I feel drawn to say, rather than, well, if you have this or that. I feel just if you feel that resonance. So Carol, you know that I've channeled and finished my book, right? And
wow.
Yes.
Everybody out there, you just clap and buy this book. That's great.
Well, it's not out there yet, but it's Awaken the Light Within. But the reason why I was saying that was because we had a conversation that you were going to write your book. So how is that coming along?
Well, I spent 6 months very intensely, and this is sometimes what happens with me. because I have like a lot of different talents and a certain way of writing. It's a more feminine way of writing. The template that I was trying to work into didn't fit actually how I write. And I was fighting against that. So I had to withdraw from that because she was in agreement with me. I said, I just don't think this way. I think a different way. I write a different way. And I want to have fun with this. In my life, here's my criteria now, and it's just more and more. I want to have fun. If I'm going to engage in activity, I want the fun of it, the pleasure of it. I'll do the work of it, but I want to have pleasure. When I write, I want to pick it up and say, that's satisfying. I really like this.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me. So when I channeled mine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
And so it took 10 hours straight channeling. And I literally didn't know what I'd written. So it's only, obviously the initial bit about me was I wrote from the heart, and the last bit was all my processes. But the middle bit, which is a healing journey, I literally, when I read it, I had no idea I'd written it.
Wow.
So that was the channeling aspect, where the guides just came in and channeled. So it might be that that's your way of doing it, because you just sit there and you allow God, Jesus, whoever is coming through to write with you, Mary, to write with you, to come through. And I could tell the different energies as well, because, I work with the Galactics, but I work with Mother Mary, I work with my other guides. I could tell which guides were coming in at different times because the energy was different. And when I read it, I could tell the different energies. So I think I'm feeling drawn to say that to you, because I feel that is probably how it might be helpful for you to channel yours.
Well, I have a little excerpt. Do you want me to read it, or they can?
Can they find it? Can they find it somewhere?
I can have my tech guy attach it maybe to the website. Yeah.
I think that's a very good idea. Okay, and then we can direct people to go to your website and listen and listen to a little part of it.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of running out of time a little bit now on the conversation. But I think that would be great. So if people go across to caroljoyce.net.
.net, www.caroljoyce.net, all one thing.
Yeah. If they come over to your website, they soon will be able to read. Have you got a newsletter?
Do I have a what?
Have you got a newsletter people sign up to, or can they put? They just put their email in.
Not yet. I have a music thing. They can go also to caroljoycemusic.com. So I've written some songs that are up there. That's a different website. So
so they can find out all about you. But I love you. And, from the moment, the moment I met you, I loved your energy, and we had a divine connection of a remembering, I feel, of our souls.
Yes.
But the journey that you've been on is just a unique journey. It's a really unique journey to experience, not what you experienced in childhood, but why you chose to actually become a nun. And then now how you have this beautiful sense of understanding, almost a provincial and humility way of living, where almost you had nothing apart from you had everything at that time.
Yeah. Wow, beautifully put.
And well, nothing really, because my understanding of a nun is that you are essentially marrying to God. Is that right?
Yes.
You're marrying to God, and so you're giving that, and we've done that in many lifetimes, so people are maybe resonating with this from other lifetimes. But to give that and give your whole self and feel that you have nothing but that is actually everything.
Yes, it's profound.
And now when we live in this world, we have mobile phones. Thankfully we have technology, because we can do all these amazing things in our life. But I think what I'm really feeling drawn to say is that what's happening in the world now, and we're recording this on the 2nd of June 2020, is a time for people to really realize that they have everything.
Yes, that's right.
And everything is within.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
We don't have to be a nun.
No.
We don't have to go and be a nun. We don't have to marry to God, because we are. I am. We are.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all part of this beautiful unified field of light, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes.
Of
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. So thank you, Carol. It was just an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's lovely, and it's always wonderful to be with you, Susan. Always. It's great. And your people are very lucky. You're such a great guide and great scientist also. It's just amazing. It's good. Really good. And I want the copy of the book. I want to know when it's out so I can
have a signed copy
in my library. Yeah.
So thank you all for listening to The Spiritual Awakener. If you have a spiritual awakening story or a turning point in your life that you would like to share with me and my listeners, please go to susankennard.co.uk. And also you can find this podcast on all podcast platforms, plus my YouTube channel, which is my name, Susan Kennard, and across all social media. If you would like to work with me, or you'd like to find out a bit more about my spiritual science background, go across to episode 1, where you'll hear my story of my spiritual awakening, and you can find all the other details on my website, susankennard.co.uk. So much love for now, and join me on the next episode of The Spiritual Awakener.